Hey Cornerstone, Aaron and Ramona here. We are so excited to bring you chapter 9 of Pastor Joey's book, Prophetic Journey. We
Yes.
hope that you are enjoying it and as much as we have been doing these videos. Uh, if you haven't gotten your book, you can get it in the description above.
Yeah, guys, this has been a real blessing for Ramona and I to be able to come and make these videos for you guys on Pastor Joy's Zamora's book, Prophetic Journey. You know, if you really want to learn something, try to teach it to somebody because that has really, caused us to really get,
Mm-hmm.
down into the book and get into depth and just do a lot of studying, have some great
Yeah.
conversations and discussions about, what Pastor Joy wrote in the book. And, it has been a great blessing for us. And we want to say thank you to Pastors Joy and Meredith
Mm-hmm.
Zamora for giving us the opportunity to be able
Yeah.
to be a part of this and be able to make these videos for you guys. And hopefully you guys have been blessed by these, and I know we have. And so we want to
Yeah.
say thank you for that opportunity. We hope everyone's doing well. We hope everyone is staying safe.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like things are getting better around our region and around the world, even. And so we're thankful for that, and we are still putting God in control of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So um, thank you for staying with us,
Yeah.
guys, up until now. So um, as Ramona said, we are getting into chapter 9 of the prophetic journey, and so chapter 9 is the power of increase from a tight place to a wealthy place. And let me tell you guys, doing these videos, talking about increase and blessing and all
Mm-hmm.
these things that we get to preach on and talk about, it's so nice to get to be able to talk and study on good things, increase, blessings,
Mm-hmm.
and forgiveness. It's so neat because when you do that, you really are bringing good things into your
Yeah.
soul, into your mind. That you're focusing on forgiveness and blessing and mercy and
Mm-hmm.
wealth and increase, and that really does change your life when you can
Mm-hmm.
focus and study on these things. And so we encourage you guys, to keep studying, keep believing, be a Berean, like Pastor Joy says, be a studier of the Word, and and this has been a great book, and we really liked it. And so in chapter 9, it starts off talking about having an until moment, and it's really talking about like revelation, and God continues to give us revelation. He
Mm-hmm.
continues to
Yeah.
show us what He has for us, but there's always times where, or there's some times where um, we think we have the revelation that God has for us, but sometimes God has to give us a little something, a little nugget, a little give us an until moment where we think we know what that revelation is until God gives us more, and then we can really know what that revelation is and be able to receive
Mm-hmm.
it. So what Pastor Joey talked about in his book was, if I asked you a question, who is higher up in the building, the guy painting the ceiling or the guy putting carpet on the floor? Well, your first response would be, well, the guy painting the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't tell you that the guy putting the carpet is on the second floor and the guy
Right.
painting on the first floor. So until you got that
Mm-hmm.
until moment, until you received that little bit extra information,
Yeah.
you weren't really able
Mm-hmm.
to know kind of the whole situation and what God was having. So when God gives us that until moment, we get that now moment, that until moment to where we can really realize what God has for us in His revelation to us. We can then we can really
Mm-hmm.
truly receive it. If we don't know what that revelation is, we really can't receive it. And so that was a really cool part that I liked about this chapter.
For example, like we could be believing for a healing, and we could be believing that it's going to happen this certain way, and God has other plans, and until we have that aha moment that He could be healing us through just a healing process and not something instantaneously. He could be doing something within us to receive that healing. So something internally is happening inside to receive what He has for us.
That's right. Yeah, once we want to get that
Mm-hmm.
revelation, we can actually truly receive it, and that was really cool. And then it talks about having the faith to be able to receive that stuff, and the book goes on to talk about faith. And I really liked what Pastor Jay wrote about faith. And it's not faith is not a what, it's a that, and
Mm-hmm.
that really spoke to me, and it really helped me in explaining kind of faith to other people and what that looks like. And so, faith, you can believe for something, but true faith is knowing that it is coming. And so
Yes.
you're not believing in the what, you're believing in the that. Faith is not a what, it's a that. So it's not faith is not what is coming, faith is knowing that it is coming. And so that was a really cool thing because you believe in things that are not seen. That is what faith is. Faith is believing in things that are not seen. So So having that revelation that, faith is knowing that God's going to provide what you were looking for. That is what true faith really is.
Like we could be, believing for a car or a home or whatever have you, but we're not just focused on that thing that He is going to give us, but we're working our faith towards that thing that God is going to bring us that breakthrough.
Yeah, and so that was so neat. I really like that part of it. And faith is so important, And so, and then a lot of the chapter talks about preparation, and Pastor Joy writes about Peter and Andrew are out fishing with their net, while James and John, the sons of Zebedee, are on shore and they're mending their nets. And so, in this story, you can see where James and John are preparing because their father, their wise father, like we have, is
Amen.
telling them, well, today might not be a very good day for fishing. So instead, we're going to stay in here and we're going to mend our nets. Meanwhile, Peter and Andrew are out there fishing and not catching anything. Pastor Joy would be upset already because he catches fish, and so they're out there and they're fishing, and then so Jesus says, well, I'm going to kind of show these guys kind of what preparedness is all about. So he has them cast their nets and they get a huge catch. Well, their nets, they start to break, of course, because they weren't prepared, they weren't mended like they were supposed to be. Their net was starting to break, and so they call out to John and James, the sons of Zebedee, and they say, hey guys, help us because we have this huge catch.
Yeah.
And so they came out and they're hauling all this fish, and then their boats are like almost sinking because this catch was so great. But this was an example of being prepared. So because Peter and Andrew were not prepared to receive the blessing that God had for them. Come on, somebody.
Yes.
If they weren't prepared to receive what God has for them, then they couldn't receive it. They had to call out to John and James, say, hey, help us receive that. And that itself is a great thing because, guys, when you are looking for something, when you're trying to get that blessing, if you're not prepared to receive it, you got to have people that are connected to you, right? You got to have people that are connected to you that will help you receive that blessing. If you're not ready for it, hey, maybe that person that you're connected to is ready for it, and they can help everyone receive that blessing. And maybe another blessing will be coming for you. So there's always to have that connection, when you're receiving, to have that. And so they called those guys in, and they were able to get that blessing. And so also it talks about in your preparation, you have to be focused. So being focused talks about being able to receive. If you're not focused on what's coming, you're not going to be receiving it. So in my mind, I thought about playing football. So when the quarterback passes the ball, if the receiver is not focused on catching the ball, if he's not focused, he's not going to catch it. And so what happens is if that receiver gets distracted, he looks away, he's not ready, he's going to miss what opportunity to receive that ball. And so what happens, guys, is in our lives is if we're not focused on God and what He has for us to receive, then what will happen is the devil will come and he will distract us and he will deceive us, and it will cause us to be frustrated because what happens is he will distract us from our identity, and he tries to change our identity not from what God has for us, but what a false identity what He would have for us. So we have to stay focused. We have to stay focused on God and our identity in Christ and in Him to be able to receive what God has for us. And so. So yeah, that was a really good part about being prepared to receive what God has for us.
There was a time in our life where, we weren't sowing and we weren't giving. And, we could see how the devourer was taking, from our lives. And when we got connected to a church and, God started speaking to our hearts to give, we started giving. And at that time, we were living on one income, and, we just stayed focused. We knew what God was trying to tell us, that we needed to sow. And, we were so in love with God that, yes, we're going to give our everything. And so we did it, even though times were tough, it was difficult. But, we kept on doing it. We kept on, thanking God for what we had. We took what we had in our hand and we gave what we had, he blessed it and he multiplied it, and through that we got better jobs, and even now that we continue to do that, we're seeing more and more and more, and our heart is to give, and it's just so incredible that we have the opportunity to do that. Like, God is allowing us to be givers, and it's just a joy for us
It
to
does feel
do.
good.
It's awesome.
Yeah, there were times where, we didn't know how we were getting through situations, but we were getting through situations, and we were actually thriving when we didn't think. Like, we would look at each other, like, how are we still in this? How are we doing this? And it really was God, His hand over us and in our lives, and protecting us, and getting us through. Keeping cars running, and keeping the house up and everything. It was really amazing, to be able to have that. We prepared, and we gave, and we tested God in those situations, because the Bible says, God says, you can test Him in these things, and we did. We really did. It wasn't like we wanted to test Him, but it was a test, because we continued to give. We stayed faithful, and it really helped.
And it wasn't just that we had to do this certain thing. We have to give so we can get whatever. But through our worship and through our connection, our relationship with the Lord, it drew us to want to do it, to want to serve, to want to give, it's just the love of the Father, allowing us to do that.
Yeah, and it really is. It's about the heart.
Amazing.
The heart of a man, the way he gives is how he will receive. And so you got to have the heart. You got to have the want. You give to God, what belongs to God, and that actually. Go ahead.
So I just want to just just to encourage you guys, if you're seeing that it's not happening for you or whatever, but just draw closer to the Lord, and He will plant those things in your heart, and He will make those things come to pass as you are obedient, as you are walking it out through the journey. He's going to make everything flourish for you.
Right, and so that comes to like a mindset part of the chapter. And so Pastor Joy wrote about the story about the Good Samaritan. There was a guy traveling a path, and some thieves found him, and they stole everything he had, and they beat him up and left him for dead. Well, a priest and a Levite both, are going to walk by, and they're going to cross the road and not stop to help the guy. But a Good Samaritan comes across, and he finds him, and he stops, and he bandages him up. He pours oil and wine on his wounds, which will preach, guys. But he helps him. He picks him up. He takes him into town, puts him on his donkey, takes him to town, takes him to the hotel, and says, "Hey, watch over this guy. I'll come back later, and if, I'll settle a bill up if he needs anything else in addition to what I'm giving you now." And so what that does is that story talks about different mindsets. And so the first mindset was the mindset of the thief. The thief thinks what's yours is mine. That's why it's a thief. The thief will take, what you have as theirs. And so, that's a mindset of the thief. There's the mindset of the priest and the Levite, which was what's mine is mine. And that talks about, hey, I got what I got. I'm not going to help you out. You guys are good. And that speaks of religion. And then there's the mindset of the Good Samaritan. It says, what's mine is yours. And this is good. This is about, where we can help, we do help. And that's where we have the mandate, to go out and spread the good news and help people where we can. And when we're blessed, we can bless. We talked about that in the last video. Because we're blessed, we can in turn bless somebody.
Amen.
And that's really neat. And so there was a fourth mindset, which was God's mindset. And so, and that is, what is God's is God's.
Amen.
And so Pastor Joy used an illustration in the book of, in one of his preachings, he gave one of his pastors a $100 bill before the sermon started. And during the sermon, he asked for a $100 bill. Well, it was really easy for that pastor to take that $100 bill that Pastor Joy had given him up to the front and say, "Here's a $100 bill," because it was already Pastor Joy's had given it to him. So it was easy for him to give it up because it was Pastor Joy's to begin with. Guys, that's the same thing when it comes down to God. When we have something, it already belongs to God. So how easy is it for us to give to God if He already owns it? If it's all His, we can give it to Him and have a free conscience, a free mind to know that God gave us this. God is always one orchestrating and blessing us and giving us that wealthy place, so we can in turn give back to God, knowing that it was His to begin with. And that makes it so easy for us to give and just to, be a blessing to somebody. And so, guys, that is a great mindset to have. And so with that, and that goes back to talk about, when we were, back and trying to give and stuff like that, it was hard times, we pushed and we gave, because we had an understanding that it was already God's. And so when it's already God's, how easy it is for us to give it back to him. And you know what, guys? He'll give it back. He will bless us tenfold, hundredfold from what we give, and he will always be the one to bless us.
Amen.
And so we're going to wrap this thing up. There's a few PowerPoints in this chapter. We're going to read you guys. The 3 PowerPoints for chapter 9 are: we must expand our capacity so that we can be recipients of God blessing in our life. And so that speaks about, guys, being prepared to receive what God has for us. If you don't have preparation and opportunity meet, that's when we get the blessing, guys. You have to be prepared so that opportunity will come and bless you and be able to receive that. So you got to be prepared. Focus is the breeding ground for reception. Distraction is the breeding ground for deception. We talked about that, guys. Stay focused on God. Stay focused on what he has for us. Stay focused on the revelations that he has. You have to keep an hearing ear for what God has for us. You can't get a revelation and then say, I'm not going to listen anymore to what God has for us, because God is continually talking. You can't just get the revelation. It's like when Abraham was going to kill his son. He's like, the knife was up and it was coming down. God said to stop. If he would have got the revelation to kill his son and then stopped listening, he would have killed his son.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to have a hearing ear to get that until moment, guys, to get that revelation. And then the goal is to recognize our now moment. Guys, God wants to bless us now. He wants to bless us all the time. We have to be prepared. We have to be able to receive. We have to be, guys, ready to receive that, focus on that. So thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate everyone watching the videos, sharing them, liking them on Facebook. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube. You guys share these videos. Get the word out. This is a great book. You guys really, if you haven't got your copy of The Prophetic Journey by Pastor Joy Zamora, like Ramona said, there's a link in the description. Click on it, get your copy. You won't be disappointed. And if you might not
so much good stuff in it.
And if you're not in a tight place right now, wrap some caution tape around it and put it on the shelf, because you're going to need it eventually, because everybody goes through good times and not so good times. And so this has really been a blessing for us to be able to go through this book, guys, and go through these chapters with you. And so we want to say that we love you. We miss you all.
Love you
we
guys.
hope to see you soon. Guys, stay safe and God bless.
God bless.